Thanks. Like, hey, Scoob, did you hear Nikki Blake is hosting a Scooby-Doo panel? No. Yeah. Like on today's Scooby-Doo episode, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy meet Nikki Blake. Yeah, in a Scooby Panel. Like, we need to get this puppy started. Okay, Nikki Blake, take it away, Scooby-Doo.
Welcome to the Scooby Panel. I'm your host, Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com, and today we'll be talking about Daphne. I have some great guests with me today, and we're going to have them introduce themselves first. So, Wendy, since you're dressed like Daphne, let's start with you.
Hi, guys. This is my homage to Daphne from the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo because I don't think she gets enough love. And we've got her number one man, Scrappy, from that series. And I've been trying to raise the ghost of Vincent Van Gogh. And anyone that knows me knows that I would love for Vincent Price to actually show up at my door. So throughout the night, we're going to keep trying Mr. Van Gogh. My name is Wendy. I'm a commissioned artist and a Scooby-Doo collector, and I'm excited to talk about Daphne tonight.
Cameron.
Hey everyone, my name is Cameron Bates. I'm from Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too. I'm just a big Scooby-Doo collector and a big Scooby fan. I got some of my Daphne merchandise behind me and right here, and I'm just so excited to talk about the people person of Mystery Incorporated, Daphne Blake, tonight.
Billie.
Hi there, I am Billie Ray Bates. I am no relation to Cameron, or at least I don't think so.
Two Bates, there we go.
That's right. Okay, and I am a writer and I'm a lifelong fan of Scooby-Doo. I write about classic TV. I also do some collectibles web series on YouTube, and I'm excited to be here to talk about one of my favorite TV shows and favorite topics.
And Tiger.
Hey, I'm Tiger SINGH. I'm the host of DaphneToo Presents on Instagram. I'm very excited to talk about Daphne. She's by far my favorite character. So let's see how this goes.
Nice. Thank you all for being here. I'm really excited to finally start talking about one of the gang members. So we're going to start with Daphne's origin. So really in Where Are You? We didn't get much of an origin story for any of the gang. But at some point, we did learn that Daphne's father bought the mystery machine for them. And we do know that Daphne was inspired by Thalia Menninger from The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. Other than that, do we really know much from the beginning, more so, about Daphne? Tiger, we're going to start with you since Daphne's your favorite.
Okay. Oh man, it's an intense place to start. You know, we definitely don't know much about her. She's sort of a little bit mysterious. She's just sort of, in the beginning, definitely, she's just sort of there. I feel like a little bit. I wouldn't say she's my favorite character because Where Are You or even any of the 80s series. It's because of her modern interpretations. And well, yeah, 13 Ghosts as well. But as far as Where Are You and her origins in there, she's very basic, and it's definitely doesn't feel like the Daphne we know today, even though it may be the same Daphne. But she fleshes out, especially in a pup named Scooby-Doo, we get to know a lot more about her history and her origin.
Yeah, she does really become just a whole different character from where she started and Where Are You to where we are now.
She becomes an actual character and not just she's sort of just a throwaway in the beginning, I feel like.
Yeah. Wendy, what do you think about her origins?
Yeah, I feel like A Pup Named Scooby-Doo is really the first time that we get any type of backstory on her as an individual. I'm not gonna lie though, I don't like their interpretation of her. That was definitely, I think, obviously where the idea began, that like she was from a rich family, which they did perpetuate in later series and things like that. I actually did finally watch Daphne and Velma the other night, the movie from 2018, because I was thinking like, what origin stories are there? You know, I want to see them and stuff. And while I surprisingly enjoyed the film, I don't know that I accept it as a film about those two characters because it was very kind of odd, very, very different, but it was a lot of fun. But again, she's, you know, from a rich family there. Like Nikki mentioned, with her dad buying the Mystery Machine, that was in the 1998 Scooby-Doo behind the scenes Cartoon Network little shorts that they did, which were a lot of fun, but I don't know. Again, I don't love that interpretation of her and where they've gone with it. I can appreciate the way that they have definitely fleshed out her character in recent years. Definitely the Be Cool Scooby-Doo Daphne has probably the strongest personality out of any of them. Hi, John, if you're watching, I don't love that characteristic as Daphne, for the same reason that I don't like the rich girl storyline, because I feel like Daphne in all of the classic series, and honestly, especially when you get to the new Scooby-Doo mysteries where there's no more Fred and Velma, 13 ghosts, that kind of is where we do start to see her shine. And I feel like her character there is a complete clash with what they did from A Pup Named Scooby-Doo onward. Daphne can take charge of a situation, because I kind of feel like in those later series of the classic series anyway, before A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, she's essentially being three characters in one now. She's doing the job that she always did. She's also doing Freddy's job, and she's also doing Velma's job to a certain extent. I feel like Scrappy is very much an important player with that dynamic, because they kind of are like a partnership, because he is very like responsible and adult-like in those particular series. And I love that characterization of her, because for me, I think if Daphne had a motto, it would be, you don't have to choose between practical and pretty. I love that about her, that she's both. And I feel like making her the snobby rich girl, because she's a snob in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. She's very unpleasant. I would not want to be friends with her, I have to admit. She just kind of grates on me a little bit. Velma's character is super cute in that one, but with Daphne, I feel like they really kind of missed the mark and gave her kind of like a negative edge that I don't think she should have had. I don't think that was fair to her. Maybe it made for a more interesting character, you know, because lots of people like that and stuff. I'm not that person. I love Daphne as like more quiet, but she's capable. And she doesn't have to go out and prove it, you know, or tell somebody that she is. She just does it. And she's fabulous at it, you know? Maybe she's a little bit danger prone. Who's not? You know, I can't make dinner without cutting my finger. That's why some of my friends have called me danger prone Daphne before, even when I am not dressed like this. So I think they kind of did her dirty with the origin that they came up with for her. I'm not really a big fan of origin stories at all with any kind of classic character. I'm not saying it's not fun, and I'm sure that it's a lot of fun to write for it if you have like a really specific idea, and that's cool that people get to do that. You know, they get to take a character that they grew up with and maybe they really enjoyed and give it the spin that they have imagined for it. But I still, like I've said this in previous panels, I like to keep the classic characters more generic. You know, I don't really need to know what Daphne was doing before, because what she's doing now tells me all I need to know about her. She kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Nancy Drew character, where we know a little bit of Nancy's backstory, you know, that her mom died and stuff, and that is important. But what's important is like the person that she is now and how she behaves and what she does and stuff. And so I kind of look at Daphne the same way, and I don't really like the rich girl Daphne. I'm not really sure whose idea that was, but I kind of would like to be like, I think you kind of shortchanged her, because you went from one stereotype to another. You know, she's the pretty girl that doesn't have a lot to do, and your only other option was the rich snobby girl. I don't know. I didn't love it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, but then later they like make her this karate master. So she's gone from being this rich snobby girl
True.
that needs her butler to do everything for her to this like
True.
empowered girl that can do anything for herself. So it's just so weird that they've gone from one extreme to another.
Yeah, that's true.
Her personality definitely zigzags.
Yeah,
Yes, agreed.
depending on who's writing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Billy, what do you think about Daphne's origin?
Well, I am a kind of a purist for the original 1969 series, and yeah, we really don't know much about Daphne in that series. And I think when I was a kid watching that, I kind of did want to know a little bit more about Daphne. So I think later when I saw A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, which I loved, that's one of my favorite Scooby series, I was excited to actually see her parents. I'm like, oh, we get to see a little bit more of Daphne. But yeah, I agree with Wendy that the whole like snobby rich girl thing, I didn't really like that either. It almost felt to me like they were obliged to make one of the gang members like some rich kid, a spoiled rich kid, and Daphne was like the natural choice, but they just wanted to use that device, maybe, if you will, on one of the gang members. And it just really didn't seem to fit, because to me, it didn't really follow the continuity of the original 1969 series. And so I was always a little miffed by that, but I guess it was still exciting to see her parents because they were all younger. You know, the whole gang was younger, so it was natural to show their parents. I have not watched the Mystery Incorporated series. I think I watched maybe an episode or two, and I just didn't watch any more of it. So I was a little excited, Nikki, to see your family tree on the ScoobyAddicts website. See, oh, it's got all of these sisters and family members that I had never met before. So it sounds like that series really, really gives more of Daphne's origin, right? The mystery makes you. Yeah, so maybe I do need to watch some more of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. And then I also watched the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, where Daphne did a lot more of the heavy lifting because they didn't use a couple of the characters. And so that was kind of cool. But yeah, again, you didn't really see much of her origin, per se, in that. So.
Cameron, what do you think about Daphne's origin?
You know, I'm a person that, you know, I love the originals, kind of like what Billy and Wendy said. I'm a person that grew up on Where Are You? And the Scooby-Doo show. And the Scooby-Doo show was my absolute favorite series. And, you know, I know we're kind of all jumping on this bandwagon, but I do agree that, you know, them kind of portraying her as a rich kid along the way, I kind of felt like they just threw that in there. Because if y'all remember from the Scooby-Doo show, the high-rise razor or something like that.
High-rise razor.
Thank you. Sorry. But that episode, the gang's got jobs. And they're like, we need money. But then Daphne never said, oh, I'm rich. I don't have to have money. You know, I mean, so they all got jobs. So I felt like, and I'm a person that when I watch the originals, you know, and that's my thing. When I was a kid, I'm like Billy. I wanted to know more about the background stories of the gang. And maybe there's other people who are like, oh, I didn't need to know. But I wanted to know because I was like, I love the gang. When I was a kid, I was just obsessed with Scooby-Doo, and I'm 23 years old. It never went away. I'm still obsessed to this day. But the whole thing is, though, is I was obsessed as a kid, and I wanted to know more about their backstories. I wanted to, you know, where did Shaggy grow up? You know, what state? Where was he at? You know, where did he go? You know, did they go to college? Did they, you know, high school? You know, so I wanted to know all of this. And so, you know, that kind of bothered me growing up a little bit. I mean, I never really thought too deep into it, but I would just always want to know more. But as we went along a little bit more, we saw in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, I will agree, you know, like when Daphne and them were running, she'd get a little mud on her boots, and then like the whole thing would stop. She's so dramatic. Oh my God. And she was like, Jenkins. And he would just like show up and be like, yes, Miss Blake. And then like, you know, clean her shoes. And I'm like, okay. And it was funny to a certain degree, but at the same time, I was like, yeah, they're making her a rich, spoiled kid. But, you know, I will say, though, I do like how in Mambo Wamba and the Voodoo Hoodoo, that episode from the Scooby-Doo show, she actually she's doing karate to protect one of the band members. So I heard a lot when the Scooby-Doo movie, the 2002 movie came out, you know, it kind of showed in the movie where Daphne, you know, she was kind of that, you know, danger prone and like she was always getting captured by the monsters. Well, as we watch the movie more, she kind of turns, she's like, I transform my body into a lethal weapon. And then Fred and Velma are laughing, and then she's like, I'm serious. And later on in the movie, she's kicking butt. And then people are like, okay, they're just doing that because they want to show girl power. And I'm like, okay, I do think that too. And I think that's wonderful because I'm all about, you know, empowering, you know, women, but also too, it's going back to the original. And I love that they threw that in there because I'm like, she did karate in the Scooby-Doo show, and that's one of the original shows. So, you know, to see her, you know, kind of take on the karate role and stuff like that. And to this day, I mean, the Cyber Chase, other series, she does a lot of karate. And so I think it's cool how she can take care of herself. Kind of fast forward a little bit to the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. I love how she's taking on that role. And I love how she was so strong and powerful in that sense. When they did the 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo, was there things I could have changed about that movie? Or excuse me, the Curse of the 13th Ghost of Scooby-Doo, the movie they did, I think, a couple years ago. Did I like it? I did like it. Was there some things I could change about it? You bet. But I did like how Daphne really took the essence of stepping into the leader role again, you know, because, you know, Fred was trying to take over. Fred's like, I got this. And she was like, Fred, I know how to drive this van. I know how, you know, I know how to do this mystery. We've done this before. We've traveled the world, you know, let me do this. And in more movies like the Sword and the Scoop, Scooby-Doo, the Sword and the Scoop, she really took, I mean, she like just took on like this like, you know, hero role. And, you know, so I think, you know, we don't get a lot of origin about Daphne. In the Mystery Incorporated series, in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, they portray her as this rich girl. But I think as we go along the way, there is so many more wonderful things about Daphne that we find out. You know, I love how they did in the Scoo movie, how they were telling like, you know, Velma's the empath. Fred's the tank. Scooby and Shaggy are the heart. But I love what they said about Daphne. She's a people person. You watch from the original series, Daphne is always there picking up, you know, she's always, you know, guys, you know, she's always talking to the people that are hurt. We're going to help you. You know, she, like when the Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo show, she was always loving towards Scrappy. So I think even though we didn't get much of an origin story about Daphne, I think as we go along the way, watching from the very, very first, the 1969 series, all the way up, we get to see some amazing traits to know that no matter where she grew up or how she grew up in a loving home because she's got a good heart. And I think that's very important because, and it goes for all the rest of the gang. They're all good people inside and out. I mean, I cannot find one bad trait about the gang. Really, I can't. I cannot find one bad thing about them because I know that they've got good hearts and you know, they walk tall and strong. Now, it's kind of like you said, Nikki, it's the writers. It's what the writers want as they go along. You know what I mean? But also too, guys, you got to think about it. There is, and I guess I'm just thinking ahead, but you know, there is a Scooby-verse and not everything connects the way that we think that it does. There's so many different timelines and there's so many different, you know, avenues and characters. And, you know, I mean, there's so many different routes. So where some people perceive Daphne as a spoiled rich girl, I'm the complete opposite. I view her as a strong, powerful woman in the Scooby-Doo franchise. I also, you know, view her as this loving heart person. I never really thought of her as, you know, the really danger prone girl because even in the original series, Velma got captured a couple times and Shaggy got captured, you know, What's New Scooby-Doo. So, I mean, it was not always Daphne, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I hate always stereotyping a character. I really do, because I'm thinking to myself, you dig a little bit deeper in that character, you're going to come to find out more. And I think that's with Daphne. And what I'm trying to say all in all is that Daphne has so much to her. So I hate when people say, oh, she's just a spoiled rich girl in the Scooby-Doo series. No, she's not. You need to go back and you really need to stop and really just focus on Daphne in the movies and the TV series, because she's got this funny, loving, warm, compassionate side to her that makes her so lovable within the Scooby-Doo gang.
So Daphne is about 16 years old, correct? She was 16, Velma's 15, and I think Fred and Shaggy are both 17.
Yeah.
I think that was the ages that we're going to talk later about Daphne's fascination with older men. For now, let's go into her role in the gang. So she started off being danger prone, and she was the one that was always getting kidnapped or falling down something or tripping over things and breaking things. And obviously that's not really a role within the gang. So what would her role within the gang be? Billie, let's start with you.
Well, when you're a little kid, when you're a little girl who watches like Charlie's Angels and Bionic Woman and Wonder Woman and all of that, and you see a cartoon like Scooby-Doo, it's like Daphne's the pretty one. You know, Velma's the pretty one and Daphne's the pretty one. And so I think that's why when I was a little kid, I liked Daphne because I wanted to be like Daphne, you know, that sort of thing. So it's almost like, and I hate to even say it because it's so stereotyping, but it's almost like that was kind of part of her thing. Her characterization was kind of like a little bit more glamorous female than Velma, whereas, like I said, Velma was the brainy one. But I don't know, being a little girl, at least growing up then in the 70s, I think that we're conditioned in our culture to think beauty is power. And so when you see the pretty girl, and everybody knows she's the pretty girl, that's like a subconsciously powerful thing for us. And so that's what I felt, you know, watching her, is that, you know, it's almost on a subconscious level, thinking of that thing. It's almost like, and I think you guys have touched on this before in panels, it's almost like the Ginger or Marianne question, or the Betty or Veronica question. You know, it's like, Daphne or Velma. There are two different kinds of females, and I think they each serve their own purpose on the show. And as far as the danger-prone Daphne, yeah, that was kind of fun. It's almost like a ditzy thing. Okay, she's a ditzy girl, you know, and that could be playful and fun, and there could be kind of a positive side to that. It never bothered me that she was danger-prone Daphne, maybe because I'm a klutz too. But, you know, it never, that aspect of her never bothered me in the original series. And then they continued that, you know, like we've said, with some of the other series. And then when it came to, like we've said, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, it's like she took on this other quality of the spoiled rich girl. And that seemed to be part of the purpose that she served as far as the plots and the storylines. But yeah, to me, I mean, she was just like, she was kind of just a girl I wanted to be, because, you know, she was cute, and I mean, she could be smart sometimes, and you know, I don't know. That's what it seemed like to me.
Cameron, what do you think Daphne's role within the gang is, or was?
I would, like I said, I would say like people person, the heart. I mean, I know I've said in the past, you know, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy from the movie Scoob, you know, they're called the heart, but I really do think she's got a lot of love to show everybody in the gang, and even just people that they're helping in cases. You know, it's, you go back and you watch, you know, a lot of things, you know, is Daphne the pretty one in the group? Yeah, she is, because, you know, she's always glamorous, and she's always, you know, looking at fashion, and she's always, you know, I mean, she always has been that way. But I don't think she lets it go to her head. I think she's a girl in Mr. Incorporated that knows her values, knows what she wants, and she's going to go get it. And I say that because you watch the series, you watch the movies, you know, she's not really like that. Oh, Fred, you know, and, you know, she's falling over, and, you know, and Mr. Incorporated, the series, she was like that. And I didn't like how they did that, because it was like every step Fred made, it was like, oh, Freddie, oh, Freddie. I mean, if I hear, oh, Freddie one more time, I was going to be like, oh my goodness. But seriously, it just goes to show that I felt like even in I love my favorite part of her is that, you know, she's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. And I mean it, because she's beautiful and glamorous, and she knows fashion. That's awesome. She's strong, she's brave, you know, and she has a lot of self-defense. She's always caring and showing kindness to others. And one thing that I feel like everybody hasn't really touched on, but everybody knows about, is that she can be a person that can take other people's traits and make them the best parts of themselves and also the best parts of herself. And what I mean by that is that she can take a little bit of Velma. She can be smart during the cases. She can take a little bit of Freddy. She can be the leader. She can take a little bit of Shaggy and Scooby and be a little goofy. And it does not change her character, because it's like she can be whoever she wants. She can have the best of both worlds, and it never changes who she is. So to answer your question, Nikki, I honestly think that she's just that loving, sweet, compassionate person in the group, and they all are. But I feel like with Daphne, she's just that warm person that you want to go give a hug, and I mean it. Like I said, my favorite part or my favorite version of her was the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, because she's working side by side with Scrappy. She's getting things done. She's kind of like that. That person that's like, we're not going to give up, gang. We're going to get this done. We're gonna capture these these ghosts back into this demon chest. So you kind of see another side of her, and it's kind of like she's a book throughout history. And honestly, I see it within each of the gang. And I feel like every time there's a new series, or every time there's a new comic, or every time there's a new movie about the gang, it's kind of like their book, and we get to see a new page open about it. Now, has there been new things over the years, kind of in recent times, that we've seen about the gang that's been a little bit more new, and some things have been thrown in there that we've never heard about from earlier? Yeah. But I think it's fun in a way, because it's like, you get to play around with that character. You're not being disrespectful, but as a person, we have so many different things about us. We're just not one way. We're one person that can have many likes, many traits, many different things about us, and that's okay. We're human. And I think that's why people who have watched Scooby-Doo for 52 years have connected with these characters so well, because to me, it's like, they have different, things about them. I mean, I'll be honest with you, growing up, I'm like, I really never had Scooby-Doo is always my favorite character, but within the gang, I never felt like, I felt like I connected with Freddy a little bit. I felt like I connected with Velma, Daphne, Shaggy, because they all brought out different, varieties of themselves over the years. And I loved it. Another thing I love too, I got to say, is I love how Daphne and Velma never put each other down. I love that. You see in some series how other, and I'm not just saying just for women, even men too, or whoever, when cartoon characters or when people start putting each other down, I don't like that. I really don't. But over the years, I've always seen Daphne and Velma get along. I've always seen Daphne and Velma. My favorite part where I kind of see them lift each other up was in Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, the live movie. Velma's like about to go on this date, and then like Daphne hooks her up like with like this like orange jumpsuit that's god awful, and it's a funny scene, but it just shows that Daphne's so caring towards her. Daphne's always thinking of others. Has it been a series where she's kind of thought about herself a little bit, or thought about her relationship with Fred, or thought yes. But like I said, guys, there's also different timelines. It's not that Daphne. There could be different versions, different varieties of Daphne. So that's what I kind of think in a sense of what that's her role in the gang. She's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. She can be whoever, whenever, and she's still got that loving personality of her.
Tiger, what are your thoughts on her role within the gang?
I agree with what Cameron said about her being sort of like a Swiss Army knife. I think it's great. She's like a blank slate a little bit, which kind of goes back to what we said. Her origins are sort of blank and vague, which is reflected in her character, which is a good thing, because then she could be the leader. She could be the smart one. Her main role in the gang, I would definitely say, is as like the crafty one, or the ingenious one, the one who can always solve it. If no one else can solve it, Daphne solved it. Like, she's probably the smartest one, even smarter than Vilma, I would say, at least in different ways. Maybe Vilma knows how to use computers, but Daphne knows how to break him out of prison, or, you know.
Like street smart versus
Right, exactly.
technology smart. Yeah.
Exactly. So in Mystery Inc., she's definitely, you know, she's got her different sort of personality, but you could look at it where she's just like the evolution of her character. Maybe she starts out like that and she's sort of self-obsessed a little bit and snobby, but that could take her from Mystery Inc., where she's obsessed with Fred, and those traits could be brought out into, you know, the good light, to where her love of Fred, you know, turns into her love of all people and her love of everybody, or her snobbiness and, you know, want to like have her shoes be clean all the time or whatever. Could, you know, could have evolved into her karate skills. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you could see it as just a step in her character's evolution, like not thinking of Mystery Incorporated being released after the original show, but taking place before. So her role evolves as it goes.
Yeah, I can agree with that totally. Yeah. Wendy, what are your thoughts on Daphne's role within the gang? Actually, before we get into your thoughts, I would like you to say her catchphrase because you're dressed like her.
Yeah.
Jeepers. Jeepers, Freddy, there's a ghost.
You got the voice down.
Yeah, you do. You could definitely
Thank you.
voice Daphne.
As far as her role in the gang, I'm gonna kind of take this in a different direction. And I'm definitely referring to like the classic series rather than the modern ones, because I do feel like the modern ones just, they completely change the mold. You know, it's a different mold completely. So I'm talking about 13 Ghosts all the way back to the original Where Are You? Maybe unpopular opinion, but I don't really think that any member of the gang actually has a set role. Are there kind of like stereotypes and tropes involved? Like, I mean, obviously out of the Scooby gang, if you want to make the comparison, Daphne is Ginger, whereas Velma might be Marianne, you know? But that's a very superficial thing. Not that it's bad, you know, but I feel like maybe sometimes we put too much of the emphasis on the physical and we're not thinking about the other stuff. I definitely agree with what Cam said, you know, like Daphne over the years, like she can be a chameleon, you know, whatever the situation calls for, she can do it, you know, and I think that's great. And that's why I do love when she gets to really shine in like the 80s series and stuff, because you get to see that progression where, yeah, we knew that you could do this before, but now you're doing it all the time. And we're getting to see all these different facets of her character and her abilities and stuff. But I think that like in any friendship, because at the end of the day, the gang, they're a bunch of like really good friends. They're best friends and they're going around and they're doing something together. And if you really think about it, you know, there's all these personality quizzes like, oh, who are you out of your gang of friends? You know, are you like the motherly type? Are you the party kid? You know, all these kind of things. And I love a personality quiz. I mean, I will stop whatever I'm doing to take one. It's ridiculous. I have a problem. But the funny thing is, though, is that they always seem to suit and yet they don't suit at all. And I think that's because you don't necessarily have specific roles when you're in a group like that, especially if you're friends. You don't fill different roles. I feel like everyone in the Scooby gang can fill the same role. It's just that every member of the gang does it a little bit differently because they do have different personalities. They're not the same person, you know, they're not just carbon copies of each other. You know, my best friend Crystal and I, we have a lot of things in common. We have a lot of things not in common. And we both love Nancy Drew. We read Nancy Drew growing up. We're reading Nancy Drew again. And because when we were growing up, I always thought of myself as like, you know, more of like a leader type. And my friend was very sporty. In my mind, I was like, well, we're Nancy and George. But then as we got older, you know, and we spent a lot of time together and we talk a lot, and we are like older, we are definitely adults now, and we both took this quiz a while ago. It was like, which Nancy Drew character are you? And we both got Nancy. And when I thought about it, I was like, that makes perfect sense, because why I was associating myself with Nancy and her with George was a completely superficial thing. I wasn't thinking about like when we're in a situation or we're doing something, you know, we've been on road trips, we've traveled, we've done all of these things together. We essentially can do all of the same stuff. It's not like one of us is filling a role that the other one can't. It's just that maybe depending on the situation and circumstance, one of our approaches to filling the role might be better suited. You know, I definitely have a much more like dominant kind of personality. So if you got to rough somebody up, probably going to be me doing that. If you need more of like a gentle touch and like settle down a little bit and talk this out, Crystal's the one for that. That's not my role. I'm not going to fit that role like that. But the point being that depending on the situation, it's not that you're doing a different thing, you're just approaching it from a different manner. So I don't really think that any member of the gang has a specific role, because like everybody pointed out, sometimes Daphne is the smart one. You know, she sees things that Velma doesn't. Velma, you know, gets, because of how she looks, stereotyped as like the brainy one, and she is very smart, but Daphne's really smart too, as we definitely get to see in later series where she's filling both the Velma and the Freddy role as well as her own. So I kind of look at it as not what's her role in the gang, but what is Daphne's role in the show. And I think that Daphne's purpose in the show is to show people that you don't have to fit or fill a particular role to be useful. You can just be you, and you can still be useful, because like Cam said, you're like a Swiss Army knife. Depending on what the situation is, what the situation calls for, you got a whole bag of tricks here, you know? And I do feel like Daphne has, Billie mentioned something about this, like I do feel like Daphne has kind of an edge up on Velma, because she also has that glam exterior, which is a form of empowerment. I mean, I'm sure some people would argue that it shouldn't be, but it is, you know, it just is what it is, you know? It's always great. Like, I love it when we see a character, a female character who cares about her appearance, puts effort into how she looks, but she's also not dumb. Because I feel like that often is the case where people are like, well, you're one or the other. You know, like I said before, Daphne is like, you don't have to choose between practical and pretty. Why can't you just do both? I wrote a blog post a few months ago talking about Daphne's winter wardrobes from all of the different series, you know? And it's like, it's proof that you can look really, really great and still chase monsters and run away from you know, bad guys and stuff. You can be both of those things. You don't have to choose. And to me, that's what Daphne does over the years. You know, that from 69 all the way through, I don't know when did 13 Ghosts end, in like 87, 88, right before Pup started. That period of time, Daphne is like the poster child for, you can be a really sweet, polite, and pretty woman, and you can still kick somebody's butt. You can solve the mystery. You know what I mean? You can do all of the things. You don't have to choose to be this or that. You don't have to be a trope or a stereotype. You can just be you, and you're useful and you're valid, and people like you, you know, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. You know, and that, again, that's why when they turned her to that like snotty little rich kid, I was like, no. Daphne spent the last 2 decades showing us that she's not a trope and she's not a stereotype, and that the pretty girl is not always a snob. Sometimes the pretty girl can be smart too, and can get stuff done for you. You know what I mean? And done stuff done for herself. So I think of it less as like a role in the gang, and I apply that to all the members of the gang. I really think that they are all equally capable people. Even Scooby, let's call him a person, because We all know dogs are people too, squirrels too. And I don't know. I don't want to put any of them into a box. I want to say that given in any given circumstance, maybe somebody's personality is going to be better suited for that particular situation that you're in, which is why it's great when you've got 5 people, you know, or 4 people and a dog, because you have options. You know what I mean? Different people are going to approach something differently, and maybe one way of doing it is going to get you the result that you want, whereas this way maybe not so great. But she's just, I don't know, I think that her role in the show overall is what's really important, and it's that you can be whatever and still be useful. You don't have to fill a certain role to be valid with your friends or with strangers or just in life in general. And if you want to look good while you're doing something and somebody tells you no, I say Daphne says it, you know, that's Daphne doing that. Okay, I'm gonna get demonetized for that, but sorry.
So let's talk about Daphne's fascination with older men. So I just recently did a review on the Scooby-Doo and Kiss movie because it's the 6th anniversary. And I remembered not really liking the movie when I first saw it, but I could not remember why because it's been so long. And then I watched it, and then I realized why. One of the major reasons is because Daphne and Paul Stanley, who is the star child, are flirting through the entire movie. And it's just gross and creepy because he's 63 at the time that they filmed this. And she's supposed to be 16. I mean,
are they teenagers still in these movies, the modern ones?
As far as I know, they are. I mean, besides like Zombie Island. But yeah, I think they are. And it's just creepy. I mean, 16 and 63, at least like wait till she's legal. I mean, this is a problem. Did anybody else have a problem with that in the movie?
I think that it really reflects Western animations. I'm sorry, like I can't think of the word. How calm they are about pedophilia. Like how casual they are with it, like shows like especially adult comedy shows, but even kids shows like this. She's 16 and he's 60 something, even though I feel like the Kiss characters are supposed to be younger in the movie, but they're still probably like 40 or something. That's still disturbing, and they're so casual about it, and it just happens like it's okay, and it's not okay. And that happens a lot in Western media, and it's just like I'm glad you addressed it, you know.
I haven't actually seen the WWE movies. I have them, but I haven't watched them. Sorry.
What?
For anybody that likes wrestling, I apologize.
I love them.
But I read something that she was also all over John Cena in the movie. I'm not sure if that's true. But if it is, he was 37 at the time that movie was done, which I guess isn't as bad as 63, but still.
It's still bad.
If she's 16, it's a problem. Billy, what were you
I do
gonna
like
say?
to think of the gang as being like 18 or 20 now. I'm sorry I interrupted.
I was just interjecting, but John Cena's hot. So.
Agreed.
I didn't see this, but you know what? I thought that they were a little older, like in Zombie Island, Witches, Ghosts, all of that. I saw the first, or actually I own over there, the first few of those direct-to-video movies that they started making in the late 90s, early 2000s. I loved them all. I thought, oh wow, this is like a modern Scooby-Doo. It was back then. But I thought they were older. I thought they were like 20s. Did anybody else think that?
Yeah, I feel like they're not teenagers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know for sure in like Zombie Island, they were not teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we've like like you guys have all brought up, we've gone through so many different timelines that it's hard to keep track of where we are in the timeline as far as what their age is during that specific time.
Right.
You know, I don't think we get specifically like their ages. You know what I mean? I really don't feel like we like that, like their specific number. But like, you know, in Mystery Incorporated, they're still in high school. And Zombie Island, they all have adult jobs and adult lives. You know, so I don't really know. And you know, I know you bring up like the Kiss movie and like the WWE, and is it a little bit uncomfortable, and is it kind of, I don't know, weird for a kids movie for like flirting a little bit? You know, Wendy's brought this up 10 million times, and I love when she does. I say leave all the romance out of cartoons. I really do. I'm just that type of person. I don't want to see two people, or even when two cartoons kiss, I'm just like, you know, and there's people out there that just, they love that. I mean, you know, I don't know, people for some reason like just ship cartoon characters together, and I'm just like, I don't know. I kind of want to ask them, are you okay? Because like, if that's all the time you have on your hands to ship cartoon characters, like, I don't know, you probably need to like step back and like look at your life. But no, like, I don't know, like even like in the Kiss and WWE movies, like, I don't know. I know in real life they're probably older, but like maybe in the movies they're portrayed as younger, because even like with like the Kiss, like, and I'm not, trust me, I'm not saying like, oh, it's fine that what they're doing. I'm just saying like, I didn't like because I posted it because, yeah, you're right. The anniversary was a couple days ago, Nikki, and I posted a clip of the I Was Made for Loving You, the music video they did with them. And I posted it, and I was watching it because I always like edit my videos and stuff. And they looked younger. The Kiss members did. The band Kiss looked younger in the movie. So, you know, I don't know. You know, I don't necessarily know if it was like Daphne going after an older man or how older he was compared to her. You know, I mean, if they were in their 60s in the actual cartoon and she was going after him, yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be very, very, very weird. But I don't, you know, like I said, I don't know. I think it's just something along the lines of, you know, we see in different movies and stuff, you know, like Daphne will kind of like, you know, if she sees another guy that's like a good looking guy, she kind of goes after him. And it's not that she wants him in a way, but she wants to make Freddie jealous, because we all know, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not a big love person, but we all know that Daphne loves Freddie throughout these series of movies, these modern ones, you know, nowadays. You know, and correct me if I'm wrong, y'all, but do y'all notice like earlier cartoons never had any of that, and now in the modern cartoons it's like we're like shoving it down kids' throats?
It's everywhere. Yeah,
I'm serious. Do y'all notice that? Because like in the 69, I mean in the 1969 version, and the, you know, in the Scooby-Doo show, Scooby-Doo Where Are You, you know, 13 Ghosts Scooby-Doo, A Pup Named, we never saw them really flirting with each other, or love, or, you know, sexual little, you know, innuendos that, you know, that it's like, oh, it's not there, but it's there. As adults, we can see it. Kids, it may go past kids' heads, but, you know, we watch it, and, you know, and that's why, and I'm not trying to go off on a different topic, I promise, Nikki, but that's why, like,
it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. If you're on this panel more than once, it happens. But I'm very careful, and I have, and for those of you who don't know, I have a little baby nephew, and I'm very careful on what I let him watch, because I'm thinking to myself, nowadays these cartoons just kind of run wild, you know, they really do. And I think, and this is, and I guarantee people are going to probably jump on my case about this, but I'm not a big adult cartoon person. I don't like, you know, Adult Swim. I don't like Family Guy. I don't like Simpsons. And it's nothing against them. It's just, I've never liked that adult comedy in a cartoon. I think cartoons are made for kids. You want to do adult comedy, do something different. That's just me. But I think that as we've gone along with adult animation, I think it's kind of started to leak down to like the kids' cartoon animation. And people are like, oh, it's fine. It's a kids' show. And I'm like, but no, it's not fine, because kids, they're little minds are different than our minds, and I'm serious, guys, because little ones don't understand these little adult jokes, and they don't, you know what I mean? So when they're going up to their parents saying, what does this mean, you know, that's hard. It really is. And so I agree with you, Nikki. You know, kind of watching these these things, I noticed that Daphne will be flirting with somebody, or Velma will be flirting with somebody, or Shaggy will start to flirt, you know. And so I noticed they're starting to, you know, to do these like flirtation things. Kind of to get back on topic a little bit, I don't know if they meant it to be, you know, Daphne flirting with older men. I mean, I never, to be honest with you, I never really took it like that, but I never just, in general, I never liked her really flirting with the other, you know, with the guys and stuff, because I'm just like, we could have cut that and we could have added more scenes in there. I don't know. That's just me. It's probably an unpopular opinion, but that's kind of how I view the series and the cartoons now.
I feel like Johnny Bravo, the special with Johnny Bravo, opened up Scooby to
That's
this relationship stuff, because I feel like that's where it started.
Yes.
Agreed.
But that Johnny Bravo cartoon, I watched a couple episodes, and it's nothing against Johnny Bravo, but he's just like, I mean, there's flirting all over that cartoon. So you're right. Like on the Bravo Doobie Doo, like I know their anniversary, the anniversary of Bravo Doobie Doo was a couple days ago, and I was watching a couple clips on. I was like, what? Like, what? I need to probably need to go back and watch this.
I don't think I've ever watched it in full.
Yeah, I was about to say it's on iTunes. If you ever get a chance, go watch it. It's funny, but like there's like you can definitely tell there's a lot of adult jokes in there. Like and they're just like they're like calmly slipped in. They're like Daphne jumps in Freddy's arms and he like looks to the camera and winks, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like what?
That's where it all began. All the relationship stuff within the gang. Wendy, what are your thoughts on oh sorry, go ahead, Tiger.
Well, I gotta say, Reluctant Werewolf was a long time before then, and there was, you know, Shaggy had a girlfriend, Googie, and Googie's Daphne. Googie's just Daphne. That's I gotta say that.
I'm sorry, I know we're talking about Daphne, but like, did we ever see any more of Googie?
I don't think so.
No, I was about to say
no, never again.
I hate when they do that, when they introduce a character and they never use them again. Like, why?
We have a lot of characters like that.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to family members.
Wendy, what are your thoughts on Daphne and her flirting with older men, or just flirting in general?
I'm not sure I should answer this. When I was 9 years old, I was like, I'm gonna marry David Duchovny, because I was obsessed with Fox Mulder and X-Files, and he was like 26 at the time, I think, like just under 30, and I was literally 9 years old. All through public school and all through high school, my friends, I was the butt of every old man joke, because I never, ever, ever like had a crush on anybody my own age or even like a decade older than me. I was like the girl that had the hots for all the old men. So, I mean, maybe it's even more appropriate that I'm dressed like Daphne. I don't know. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the Kiss movie. I remember liking it, even though I'm not really a huge Kiss fan. Like Cam said, I kind of feel like if you're going to make cartoons for kids, like just leave all that stuff out of it. I really don't want to see it. I really don't care about it. I don't think that we need relationships and things like that. Conflict, you know, we've talked about this in previous panels. Like, just tell me a story. Tell me a story with a start, a beginning, or a beginning, a middle, and an end. I want good to triumph over evil. Do something fun in the middle, you know, and leave it at that. I don't want reality in my entertainment. The whole point of entertainment is an escape from reality. So I don't want to see it. And to be honest, I kind of feel that way about regular television too, like for adults. Can't you just, like, if you're a police show, can't you just catch the bad guy? I don't need to know about your family life and all the struggles that you're having and your affair and your divorce and your girlfriend and your third girlfriend, and you know what I mean? Like, I don't enjoy it. I don't find that enjoyable, that kind of drama. Build drama into the story. I kind of feel like all the romance stuff is just a cop-out for writers who are too lazy to think of a really interesting storyline, you know, and they need a lot of filler. I'm not into that. I don't really like that. So as far as Daphne flirting with anybody, including Freddie, like, no, I don't. If you want to imagine that on your own time, that's totally fine. I don't really want to see it. But as far as specifically like the older man thing, I mean, I can't criticize that because like I am that person. You know what I mean? Growing up, I loved Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee, who was like in his 40s in the movies I was watching. You know what I mean? And I thought he was like the most handsome man I'd ever seen, you know? And to be honest, like nothing has changed. It's still like older men. It's like, can't help it. It is what it is, you know? I kind of feel like, I don't know if anybody else feels this way. I understand in theory that the gang are meant to be teenagers of whatever age. But one of the things that I think always drew me to Scooby-Doo in the beginning, like the classic series is, pardon me, is that even if they're meant to be teenagers, I never thought of them as being teens because they always acted so mature. And that was kind of like what I always wanted. You know, I didn't really, my dad will attest to this. I didn't really go through a phase where I was a kid. Like I was a kid, obviously, but because of like how my parents treated me and raised me, I didn't think of myself as a child, you know? So when I was 9 years old and I like a guy who's 26, as much as a 9-year-old can, in my mind, I am not 9 years old. So it's not weird, if that makes any sense at all. And I kind of feel like my whole life I've had that sort of disconnect with my actual age and how old I feel. You know, I remember being in, you know, grade 8, grade 9 and stuff when you're like, what, 13, 14 years old and feeling that mentally I was 20. And when I got to be 20, feeling like I was 30, you know, now I'm going to be 35 and I kind of feel like I'm like 55. It's like, it's a mental thing, I guess. But like my perception of my own age is very different from what my age actually is. You know, one of my friends is always ribbing me that, you know, like most women lie about their age to make themselves younger and you constantly can't remember your age and you think that you're older than you are. And I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? So I don't really, like when I'm watching Scooby and the gang, I'm not making a mental connection that they're teenagers, you know, they're under 21 or whatever. To me, they're like young adults up to 25. That's how I think of them. So, and I also, again, I haven't seen the film in a long time, but like Cam kind of alluded to, I'm not sure that the KISS members were, I don't know that we were meant to watch that movie thinking, oh, this is KISS today.
Right.
Like, I understand why you obviously do that. That's logical. But I kind of feel like in a cartoon setting that there's just all kinds of lines that you can blur and just assume that people are going to assume something different than what reality is. So I kind of think of them as not being like 60-year-old men. I kind of think of them more in their prime, you know, like 30-ish, which if I'm thinking of Daphne as being like 22 to 25, I don't think that's like too much of a stretch. You know what I mean? Like 10 to 15, even 20 years, I don't really think is a big deal, you know, once you're over 20. So I don't know. I just like, I don't have a problem with it even as it is. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. People like different things. I feel like if you are a more mature person, oftentimes it's not like a physical attraction. It's more of like, well, I feel like an adult, even though I'm a child. So I'm going to gravitate towards adults rather than children. That's just my own personal experience. I know that played a role in like my feelings about stuff like that. But bottom line, let's just not even have it. Let's not. We don't need to know who's dating who. You don't have to date anybody. I'm single. I'm going to be 35 and I think it's great. I don't have a problem with it. You know what I mean? So when I'm watching TV, do I need Daphne to have a love interest or to be flirting with somebody or to be doing any of that? Like, no, just just tell me a good story and leave it at that.
We should also bring up, and this is something that the Scooby Doom from the Nerd Blitz podcast brought up. He read my review and then he messaged me and he said, you forgot to mention that some of the songs that they use in the movie are about sex. So now they're using Kiss songs that are about sex in a kids movie. And again, you know, we've talked about how it was horrible that, you know, everyone was up in arms because Daphne was a size 8 and Franken-creepy, but no one cares that in the Kiss movie, they're playing songs about sex. And to me, like, I've seen Kiss live. I know they're old. So it's hard for me to see them as young. So when I watch
they're
this
old.
movie,
Yeah.
I know they're old. So when I watch this movie, I just think, oh my gosh, these are these old men hitting on this young girl, and it's just not right. Yeah.
I feel like that you said it. It's a Kiss movie. It's not a Scooby-Doo movie. It's the
not.
Kiss. It's the Kiss movie that they should have made in the 70s, but they made that. We don't talk about that movie they made. So like it's what if they made a good Kiss movie in the 70s, and it does satisfy that. But yeah, as far as the Scooby-Doo goes, they could not even be there and the movie would be the same pretty much.
It's true. Yeah, they could have put anybody in that movie and it would have been all about Kiss. It was all about Kiss and their egos. And you know, Gene Simmons loves to put the Kiss name on things that he knows will make money. And he has said it before, you know?
It's an excuse to make a Kiss movie. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's good. I like it. Don't get me wrong. But yeah.
Billie, do you have anything else you want to add about the Kiss movie or just Daphne flirting? Or...
Yeah, not so much Daphne flirting, and I haven't seen the Kiss movie, but the idea of her and Fred hooking up and Velma and Shaggy hooking up, and I guess that's why I have not watched the Mystery Inc. series. I probably watched like an episode of it, and I was really turned off by that. I think it is weak writing. I think it is just a cop-out, like, okay, we can't make characters interesting unless they're all hooking up and they're all, you know, dating and whatever else. You know, I think that that's really, like I said, a cop-out, and it's almost like you're telling kids that you can't be a whole person unless you're paired up with somebody, which is ridiculous. We should never teach kids that, and we definitely should never teach females that you have to have someone in your life or you're not a complete person. That's ridiculous. So I think when I was a little kid watching the original series, I always thought it would be cool if Daphne and Freddie dated. I thought, oh, they should. But then as an adult, no, I don't think so. And I always think of the example of Riverdale, which if you're an Archie Comics fan and you watch Riverdale, I have a major issue with the Betty Jughead thing. Because for one thing, Jughead is completely different in the comics than he is on the TV show. They really have twisted him like crazy on the TV show. And it just doesn't make sense. Even though I love the show and I will continue watching it through thick and thin. Even if they, you know, twist the characters all around. It does bother me that they feel the need that, you know, they're just not going to be interesting unless people are paired up. You know, I guess because that show caters to teenagers, so maybe that's a big part of it. But I don't know. Have you all? Let me ask you this: have you all read this comic series? Anybody see this?
Some of them, yeah. I think I've read the first 6.
Yeah, I just have one.
Okay, I've read them, and you may not agree with me, but I love them. It's an alternate universe Scooby.
I think it's the best Scooby comic series, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and in this one, kind of like we were talking about the Zombie Island and Witches Ghost movies and all of that, and I think in there, Daphne and Freddie had a history, right? There was like sort of a that was alluded to. Well, in this universe, they've like Freddie has served as Daphne's camera guy for years in her media work, you know, her TV work and her investigative journalism and all of that. But it's really interesting how they develop that, in that she's so conflicted over him and he's fawning over her like a puppy dog in a way. It's a very weak Freddie, I think, in that comic series. But, you know, you see her conflicted because he's like asking her to marry him at least once a week, you know, so you have that running joke in the comic series. But to see inside her head at the debate that she has, and she's concerned about him, and this is, you know, these are dire circumstances where you could be dead any second, just like on The Walking Dead, because there's a zombie apocalypse. And so it's life or death situations. And so she's so concerned about him. And I think it surprises her how concerned she is about him. And she's almost like, well, maybe we are meant to be together. But then, oh, no, you know. And then also, I will point out, too, and maybe this is kind of crossing the line, sorry, Nikki, into another topic as far as the evolution of Daphne. But the relationship of Velma and Daphne in this one is crazy, because they kind of hate each other through a lot of the comic series. And Velma's almost the star of this comic book series, in that she is just so developed. Like, if you do a panel on Velma, like, you know, read these, because that's like a really mind-blowing interpretation of Velma, I think. But yeah, you see that, and I kind of like that complicated situation between Daphne and Fred in that. But as far as you know, the romance in the regular TV series, I don't really care for it. And maybe getting back to the original question, maybe I strayed off too much, but I don't remember seeing Daphne like flirt with other characters in that way, unless it was like the Freddie thing and some of the things. Yeah, I guess overall, I just don't feel it's a very good thing to do from a writing perspective with your characters, to feel like you always have to pair them up. I guess that's the bottom line.
Yeah. So let's talk about the voice actors that have played, and we're just gonna focus on the ones from the series and the movies, not the video games, or, you know, the robot chicken or whatever that's called, not any of that stuff. So did everybody watch the video that I sent out that gave us some incorrect information?
Both videos had incorrect information.
Yeah.
And I apologize for that. The one that I sent out about the evolution of Daphne, and it went through all the voice actors, it had the puppeteer, Alice Deneen, I think is her name, as the voice actor for the mystery map, and she's not the voice actor. Grey Delisle voiced Daphne in the mystery map. So I did put that out as a comment on his video. So not that he's going to change it, but at least he knows. So Steffiana Christopherson did Daphne's voice for the first season of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? And then Heather North voiced Daphne from 1970 to 1985. And then again, she came back for the Johnny Bravo special, Legend of the Vampire, and The Monster of Mexico.
I didn't even realize, honestly, until watching that video, that there was someone before Heather North. I thought she did the entire original series, so it was fun to find that out and hear the differences in the voice. It's not until you hear them side by side until you really notice how different it is.
True.
And did any of you, because listening to this and just really hearing Daphne's voice and focusing on Daphne's voice, did any of you feel like her voice just didn't sound like her anymore?
Oh yeah.
Like
yeah.
It sounds so different when she's interacting with other gang members, but when you just pull her voice out of it, it's like, wait.
It's awkward. It's really awkward.
Are you talking about the classic series, Nikki, or
just watching the video that I sent?
Just Daphne by itself is a little disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always gonna say, I was watching Scooby-Doo Where Are You the other night, because like when I lay down in bed, I always turn on like I have to have a show like to watch. So I turn on Where Are You. I watch, and I kind of go back and forth, but I watched 2 episodes a night. I watched season 1 and then I watched the season 2 from Where Are You? You can definitely tell, and I know there's 2 different voice actresses doing the voices, but like to me, and I could be wrong, and it's not a bad, and I don't mean this in a bad situation, but I kind of feel like you kind of like one's a little bit more feminine than the other, and I don't mean that in a bad situation. I just mean like one's a little bit more feminine and the other one's like a little bit more determined. So when you kind of hear the voice fluctuation from like season 1, season 2 of the original, it's kind of like, to me it's neat because I love, you know, hearing about voice acting. I love everything about it. And when you hear the 2 different from when, you know, season 1, season 2 of Daphne, I just think it's really neat to see and compare them. You know what I mean? Kind of go back and see, okay, like what's the difference? So I didn't mean to cut you off, Nikki. I was just going to say, I totally know what you mean when you definitely do hear a voice comparison of how somebody sounds a little bit more feminine or a little bit more masculine, you know, like whatever the character takes, and someone can take it in a completely different, you know, direction.
Yeah. So Kelly Martin voiced Daphne in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. Mary Kay Bergman did Zombie Island, Witch's Ghost, The Scooby-Doo Project, and Alien Invaders. Bray Delisle has been voicing Daphne since 2001 to now, so pretty much anything that's happened for the most part. And then McKenna Grace did Young Daphne and Scoob. Amanda Seyfried did Daphne and Scoob. And then the live action, we have Sarah Michelle Gellar, Emily Tennant, who did Young Daphne in the flashback for Monsters Unleashed, who
Yes.
I figured you'd be happy that I brought her up because I know that you've been doing a lot of research on them and no one ever mentions them.
Yes.
Kate Melton in The Mystery Begins and Curse of the Lake Monster, and then Sarah Jeffrey in Daphne and Velma. So does anybody have like a favorite Daphne out of those voice actors? Billie, let's start with you.
Well, I love Kelly Martin as an actress. I'm just kind of biased toward Kelly Martin. I watched her on Christie and all the way from Life Goes On through the Mystery Woman movies and the Haley B movies and all of that. I'm just a huge fan. So I was very, very excited because I recognized her voice when she did Pup Named Scooby-Doo, because I think she had done Life Goes On at that point. So I did love her as Daphne, although I didn't like that interpretation of Daphne as much. But I think in the original series as a kid, I definitely never noticed the change in voices. If I did, it was on a subconscious level. It did not even faze me. And even as an adult, I can watch those episodes all the way through, and it still does not really faze me. I want to say that Heather North is, to me, the more familiar Daphne, to me, kind of the default Daphne, I would say, voice. And also, if you really listen to it and you do notice the difference between the 2 voices in the original series and even a lot of the others that came later, Heather North just sounded to me a tad more intelligent, a tad more, logical, level-headed. I don't know how to explain it, but just not as my previous accusation ditzy, or whatever. So I think Heather North was more the characteristic Daphne for me.
Wendy?
Yeah, I agree. There's no question Heather North is like the definitive Daphne, because like if I had to pick, like, we're making the series, put together all of your favorite things. I mean, I am going to go with the first, with I cannot say her name for anything. Stefaniana. Oh my gosh, that extra A in there kills me every time. I was practicing that because I knew I was going to say it wrong. I do think that I like the sound of her voice the best. I do love that Daphne. But like Billie said, her voice is just a little bit too much of that, like, sickeningly sweet that you would, I think it kind of maybe lends itself more to the idea of like a bubblehead, you know what I mean? Like not as bright, you know what I mean? And I hate saying that because like I'm somebody that I don't really like the sound of my own voice because I think I have like a very masculine voice. Like to me, it sounds very masculine. I wish I had more of that like she had, you know what I mean? A little more feminine. But Heather North, it was close enough to that. It still had that very distinctive feminine tone to it. But especially as she evolved over the years, it's just the right voice for Daphne, Heather North. It really was. When Legend of the Vampire came out, and I recognized her voice immediately, and I was so excited. I mean, even if that movie had been the crappiest movie on the planet, I would still say it was one of my favorites, just because of the voice acting in it, getting the originals back, you know. I have to say, as far as like the others go, I know it's important for a character to look like the character they're portraying, but I got to admit, guys, I feel like in recent years, like in well, I mean, it did kind of start with a pup named Scooby-Doo, although I can give that one a pass because she's meant to be a kid, you know, and I actually did like Kelly Martin doing that. And because I'm pretty sure she was in ER too, wasn't she, for a long time? That's what I know her from.
She was.
Yeah, that was what I knew her from. But I feel like they stopped trying to find anybody to sound like Daphne, because all due respect to Gray, who has done a fantastic job, she doesn't sound like the original at all, in my opinion. I would not change that she has voiced Daphne for the last like 20 years or whatever. I would not change that because I love her and I love her interpretation of the character. But I kind of am like, I feel like none of the characters that they've really put any kind of effort into finding somebody to sound like what fans of the original know Daphne to sound like, which kind of bugs me. You know, I was actually like, I didn't really have a problem with, I thought I would have a problem, but then when I watched it, I didn't, with Robbie Amell with brown hair as Fred. You know, I thought I was going to absolutely hate that because Fred's a blonde, like don't change that, you know, but it didn't bother me that much in the end. But the voice of these people, because it's the voice that I associate with the character, I have an easier time imagining the look than I do imagining the voice. So to me, I've been kind of a little bit disappointed with pretty much everybody other than the first two Daphnes, because I'm just like, you don't sound like either of them to me, you know? And I wish that they sounded just like a little bit more, you know what I mean? Like I so appreciate that Matthew Lillard, he obviously is his own version of Shaggy, but I feel like he's put a lot of effort into trying to sound like Shaggy did when Casey, like, is he a dead ringer for Casey's voice? Of course not. Nobody can sound like Casey Kasem. I don't care how good they are, although Scott is very good. Scott's Casey Kasem is even better than his Shaggy, you know, and his Shaggy is really good too, but he does Casey even better than he does Shaggy. But like, you could close your eyes and recognize that's Shaggy. Maybe it's a little bit different than the original, but it's definitely Shaggy. And I feel like any of the other characters that or actresses that have played Daphne, if I wasn't looking at them, and I mean, I know we're looking at the cartoon and not the actress, I understand that, but if I didn't have the visual to go with the voice, I wouldn't hear the voice and be like, oh, that's Daphne from Scooby-Doo. I just wouldn't. So Stefaniana is, I think, my favorite, but Heather North for me is the definitive Daphne and will always be like the Daphne for, I think, a lot of people.
Yeah, I have to agree, although I'm so used to Gray Delisle's Daphne now that hearing everybody else do Daphne seems kind of off, because she's been doing it for I mean, she's 20 years now that she's been voicing Daphne. Right. So that's longer than most of the voice actors have stuck around. So
True.
Tiger, what are your thoughts on the voice actors?
Yeah, I think I gotta say Gray Delisle is my favorite, just because I was torn between her or Mary Kay Bergman. I just feel like it's what you grow up on, or at least for me, it's what I grew up on, and it's what had the most lasting impact on me, especially with Mary Kay Bergman probably being the first Daphne I ever heard as a kid. I was born in 1999, so my whole life Zombie Island was playing. Like it came out a year before I was born, so there was no time in my life when Zombie Island wasn't playing. So, but now I gotta say, she doesn't sound like Daphne. She doesn't sound like Daphne at all, especially classic Daphne. She's not anywhere near that. And I think it's okay for her to sound a little bit different, but definitely in retrospective, she's not Daphne. So that's why I have to say Gray is my favorite, because she has made Daphne her own. She is Daphne now to a point. But I do have to agree with what Wendy said. I don't notice Daphne in other things. Like Gray is in everything, every animated show, every video game under the sun. She's got a voice part in it, and I'm like, wait, you were in that? I watched that whole show. I thought I would have recognized you, but nope. But whereas like Frank Welker, you could always sort of tell it's him in all these. He's in 100 different voices as well, but you know it's Frank Welker every time.
Right.
But to that though, I feel like it's Gray's best attempt to be the classic Daphne, because she is changing her voice up from her own voice, but she's trying not to sound bad. She's going as close to it as she can without sounding bad, and while making it her own.
She learned from Mary Kay Bergman how to voice Daphne. So it kind of makes sense that they sounded very similar.
Exactly.
Daphne's. Yeah. Cameron, what are your thoughts?
Oh, Tiger, go ahead. What were you
gonna say? I'm sorry. I was gonna, before I realized, you told me a few weeks ago, Wendy, when me and Cam did the movie review of Legend of the Vampire, you're like, how did you not say it was all the original voice cast? I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize. I could have swore it was Gray the whole time. So I do feel like sometimes they're pretty close. Especially as a kid, at least I felt like it was just, if Heather North was given a modern microphone, she would have sounded like Gray. But I mean, obviously that was proven wrong by Legend of the Vampire, but that's how I would have felt before. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Cam.
No, you're good. You're good. So, I would have to say that my favorite, and I agree with Tiger, is Gray. And the reason I say Gray is because I think she's done a wonderful job. People are very, very picky about voice actors and voice actresses. And here's my thing, guys. The original voice actors and actresses are not always going to be around forever. But the cartoon characters will always be around forever in history, and they may stop or they may continue to keep on going. I hope and pray Scooby-Doo continues to outlive me and, and pass on to my kids and stuff. And so we're always going to have new voice actors and actresses in the future. Now, do I love Steffiana? Sorry. Thank you. Wendy, I butchered that way. So feel good about yourself. But her and then Heather North, I think were wonderful. Guys, I really do think they were absolutely wonderful. I really don't have anything bad against any of the voice actresses of Daphne, because I also love Mary Kay Bergman as well. I have a VHS video signed by her. And I think that's one of the most important things in my collection, because
definitely
y'all do know she committed suicide. It's very tragic, but she sounded wonderful as Daphne in Zombie Island and some of those movies. And Nikki, you were saying that Mary Kay Bergman, she helped train Gray in a way. I think that's very special. And I think here's my thing, guys. I think it's very powerful when you get voice actors and actresses in there that care so much about these cartoon characters. Take Scott Innes, for example. And I know I talk about Scott a lot, but seriously, guys, he loves Scooby-Doo and Shaggy so much that even though he voiced them, he still posts about them. He's really, really involved with the community. Look at Gray Delisle on Twitter and Instagram and all these social media platforms. She's always posting about Daphne, or she's retweeting, or she does a little video and she goes, "Jeepers, gang," and she got this voice. That was awful voice of Daphne, but you know what I mean, though. here's my thing, and I also love Kelly Martin too, but I'm also a person too that I'll watch the voice actors or actresses outside of the role of the cartoon character. So when I watch them in regular stuff, sometimes they're just talking like normal, and they may put a little tweak on it. But to me, it's neat how these voice actresses have just sounded like Daphne, but in real life. They may have tweaked their voices a little bit, but they sounded like just talking like normal, but they sound like the original Daphne. And in my view, now take for example, you know, the Kelly Martin did the young Daphne. Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that correct?
Pup
She did
named
Pup named
Scooby-Doo,
Scooby-Doo.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. So she did the young Daphne, the Pup named Scooby-Doo. But guys, that was young Daphne. She still sounded like Daphne in a way, but it was younger. So you have to take she was a
Right.
kid. Kids sound different. But to me, everybody that's done Daphne so far has done a phenomenal job, and I would not change it. You know, and will I say that there's other, you know, other characters and other, you know, voice actors and actresses that maybe don't sound a lot as the original? Like, I you know, and I'm not trying to jump over different characters, but you know, take for example, Velma. You know, Kate's doing Velma right now, and I think she does a great job? You betcha. But does she sound like the original? No, I don't. And I don't mean as a mean thing. And Kate, if you ever see this, I don't mean as a negative thing against you. I just think sometimes you may not sound like the original, but at least you're giving an effort to try to really capture that character's essence. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, I think I would go with Gray just because, like you said, Nikki, she's been doing it for over 20 years now. And I think it's very, very special how she kind of got trained by Mary Kay Bergman. And I kind of feel like Mary Kay Bergman kind of, you know, really looked up to Heather and all these other voice actresses that, you know, done her before. And kind of, so to me, it's just kind of like it's been passed down. And I think, and because, you know, because y'all know I love Where Are You and the Scooby-Doo show. So y'all are probably thinking, oh, his answer is going to be Heather North. I love Heather North. I thought she was a phenomenal Daphne. But I think that Gray has taken a part of these actresses' voices and has combined it to make a wonderful Daphne. And like Tiger said, in a way, when you watch something and you know, you're not really, and I think it was Tiger and Nikki that said it, but when you watch something for about Daphne and it's something older, it kind of sounds weird when it's not Gray. But then I know in the future when Gray, you know, when she retires or, you know, I mean, when she's not doing Daphne anymore in the way future.
In 40 years.
Yeah, in 40 years. But it's going to sound different again. So, you know, to me, I think Gray's doing a phenomenal job. I think she's really, you know, picking it up. She's doing what she needs to do. I think she's just phenomenal in that sense. So that's, to me, I think that's my choice for my favorite Daphne.
I love how no one even acknowledged the Scoob voice actors.
I was actually just going to bring that up. I didn't have an issue with any of the Daphne voice actors. I think they all did a really good job. And like I said, you know, Gray's been doing it for so long, so that's the Daphne voice that I have in my head. Right. You know, and watching that video where they're just taking Daphne's voice out and that's all you're hearing from each series is so much different than listening or watching the episodes, because, you know, it all just sounded weird to me until they got to Gray. But, you know, I can watch What's New Scooby-Doo and it sounds totally right. So it's so weird how you just take that part out of it and it just doesn't work in your brain anymore.
Because you need the context, you need the conversation and the music and the sound effects. It's eerie almost.
Yeah. But with Scoob, I don't think any of us were ready for the voice actor changes in that movie. You know,
I'm still not ready for it.
If they continue to do, like, they want to do this whole Hanna-Barbera universe, and if they continue to use those voices as those characters, and maybe in time we'll all get used to it. But
I hope they come to their senses.
Not to say that Amanda Seyfried did a bad job, but she didn't sound like Daphne, because right now Daphne is Gray Delisle.
Right.
And that's what Daphne sounds like in new shows and movies, and that's the voice that we expect to hear.
She did a good Grey Delilah impression. That's what she did.
May I just say real quick though, and I, Billy, I'm not trying to take away from you. I gotta say this though, you know, I don't know if I mean I'm a big Hanna-Barbera fan, and when that series I don't think it's released yet, but it got announced for Jellystone. They were doing that show called Jellystone on HBO Max, and guys. If y'all have not seen the trailer, the animation looks nothing like the cartoon characters, and the voices sound nothing like the cartoon characters. And to me, Hanna-Barbera, and I mean Daphne and Scooby-Doo and all these different characters, they were meant to be fun and loving, and yet they were cartoons that weren't dumb funny. Do you know what I mean? Like they were like cartoons that had like actual stories, and they were actually like really good. I mean, to me, Hanna-Barbera, they were great storytellers, and they used it through these cartoons. But now on this Jellystone, and I'm not, and like I said, I have not watched yet, so I can't be full on hating, but I'm just saying, you watch this trailer and they're trying to be dumb funny with it. They're trying to completely change the voices. So I guess what I'm going to ask all of you is, do y'all see that? Do y'all see that they're kind of straying away from the voices of the characters? It's kind of like anybody can be the voice actor of Jabberjaw, or anybody can be the voice actor of, El Kabong, or our Top Cat. You know what I mean? So to me, it's a little frustrating if you ask me. I don't know how y'all kind of view it.
Captain Caveman.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Like I mean, and I will say Tracy Morgan, when he did Captain Caveman and Scoob, to me it was just kind of like, it's like they're not really trying to, you know what I mean? They're not really trying to jump into that character. I mean, I don't know. Do you foresee that as well, or am I the only one seeing it?
Well, the actors for Scoob, they got big name actors on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so they paid them to do a job, and that's all it was to them. It's a job. If you would have put Grey Delisle in that role, as Daphne, or Frank Welker as Fred, you would have gotten more heart and soul into the characters.
Right.
Because that's what they do. Like they're their characters. But you just pay people some money and they're just doing a job. It's not going to be as good.
Right. It's not the job. It's their career. It's their life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's different when you voice the character, especially Frank Welker. I mean, he's done it for 52 years.
Right.
Of course, he's going to put everything he has into voicing Fred. But you bring Zac Efron in and, he's not even half of Fred's age. So Billie, did you see Scoob?
Yes. Yeah, I did.
And what did you think about the voice actors?
I think I agree with you that, they're going to hire some big name talent to attract people to the movie, and it's definitely not going to have, it's not going to be somebody with a history with that character who feels like they know that character. So yeah, I totally get you on that.
Does anybody else have anything to say in regards to, speaking of the Jellystone trailer?
Oh, yes.
It is awful.
Yeah,
So in a way,
they're trying to modernize it too much.
They are. They're trying to do what they do with every cartoon and make it stupid and funny, and it just, none of it makes any sense. But in a way, I'm kind of glad that the voice actors that normally voice those characters are not voicing them for this, because I feel like that's what they're doing with the characters is just so beneath them that they should bring in new people to do it. We don't want them to sound like the characters, because we don't want to associate those characters with the original characters that were created.
Right. It's like putting Teen Titans Go next to Teen Titans. That's like what they're trying to do to it.
Right.
I will say I was pretty heartbroken when I watched the Jellystone trailer, because I think they really, really, really missed the boat on this. I will say I was very relieved not to see Scooby and the gang. in the series, because let me tell you something right now. If I saw Scooby-Doo and the gang in that animation style, I probably would have like flown to California and like tried to break through the Warner Brothers gate and be like, listen here, we got some problems. No, but seriously though, I mean, they've also, it's like they're trying too hard in my sense. And you know, I mean, I'm a big fan of Johnny Quest. I'm a huge fan of Johnny Quest. He's probably my second favorite cartoon from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah,
He was in there with Haji, and they looked nothing alike. I mean, they looked nothing like their original form. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you get Captain Caveman in there and his son, and then and to me, like I said, it was just kind of stupid animation. I mean, there was one scene on the trailer where someone died on an ER table and Yogi Bear is just hitting him with a frying pan. That's nothing like Yogi Bear from the original series. I mean, he's, you know, I'm average bear. You know, he's stealing picnic baskets and running around. That's Yogi Bear. I love how I just jump into these voices, y'all. Like, example. You've never seen Yogi Bear before. But my thing is, though, is it's and you know, Billie, I think you can agree with me on this because you've grown up with Hanna-Barbera, and Wendy, you have too. I mean, we've all grown up with Hanna-Barbera, but y'all can kind of see it. It's like they're kind of just, they want to like make it dumbed down animation. And I forget who it was, but someone did a reaction trailer to Jellystone. I think maybe it was Ashton.
He's always
Ashton
doing
Harding.
reaction trailers.
Yeah,
It's probably
I
him.
love his reaction videos.
Right.
But he did it, and one of the producers watched it, and this guy who is a producer for Jellystone is so freaking young. And I may get some hate and backlash for saying that, but I'm thinking to myself, buddy, have you watched the original Hanna-Barbera? Like, I'm serious. Like, and I'm 23. I know I'm young. But my thing is, though, is I grew up on Hanna-Barbera. I'm serious, show. I grew up on every single Hanna-Barbera show I could, and I watched all of Hanna-Barbera's art, all of Hanna-Barbera's cartoons. Everything Hanna-Barbera created was beautiful, perfect. I wish I could have met Joseph Barbera and Hannah Williams, because those two men are geniuses for creating cartoons that bring such love and creativity into the world. But now you take these cartoon characters and you throw them into a show where there's, you know, they're hitting each other over the head with frying pans. And I'm thinking to myself, we have so much of those cartoons now. I mean, is that what kids really find funny? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I never found that stuff funny when I was younger. And I guess it's why I was never drawn to SpongeBob or all these other cartoon characters, because it was like stupid funny. I don't like that, you know, and I don't know. I mean, I gotta ask. Wendy, Nikki, I know y'all seen it. Tiger, I know you've seen it too. But Billie, have you seen the trailer for the?
Well, I haven't seen the trailer. I've been avoiding it because
You need to watch it, Tiger. But I gotta ask Billie, have you seen it?
Oh, I had never heard of it till now. So I guess I have.
If you get a chance, go look up Jellystone HBO Max on YouTube. And later on, you got to tell me what you think about it, because they're completely rewriting the Hanna-Barbera universe. And
got me sad. I was hoping to just watch the show when it came out, because I'm already interested. If I'm interested in something, I'm not going to watch the trailer. I'm just going to watch it when it comes out, or play the game when it comes out. So I was hoping it would come out and be good. But now you got me like, 'Cause I feel like the future, you know, they always hinge the future of these franchises on one thing. So like, it's got to be good, it's got to be successful, or they're not going to make another Yogi Bear thing for another 40 years or whatever, you know.
Oh, I know. And that's what upsets me. That's why I was so upset, because I'm thinking to myself, you bombed this, you're not going to have a future for Hanna-Barbera. And I think it kind of rubs off too, because I worry about some things they're going to do with Scooby-Doo in the future. I'm like, guys, I love Scooby-Doo, but if y'all go a little too far with something in the Scooby-Doo franchise, maybe that'll happen.
You said you liked Daphne and Vilma. Did I hear that right?
I mean, I don't think it was great as like a movie within the Scooby-verse, but as just like a movie, I really liked it.
Yeah,
I thought it was great.
Same.
I'd like to be honest.
Somebody.
I would I'm usually somebody that doesn't like to rewatch movies unless they're like classic movies.
Mhm.
You know, like I love anything Vincent Price. I'll watch it a million times. You know, House on Haunted Hill is my favorite movie of all time. I've
Yes.
probably seen it like 45,000 times. I don't know, lost count how many times I've seen it. But I would probably like rewatch Daphne and Velma like next week, and I only just watched it 2 nights ago.
Right. Yeah, it's fun.
Like,
It's a fun movie. It's a
It
cool
is kind of fun.
It's like a
Yeah.
Disney Channel original movie, you know,
It
like
is.
feel
Yeah.
good, wholesome, fun.
Yeah.
There's no nothing of like no
No.
romance, no sexual jokes, no adult
No.
humor. It's just a straight fun kids
Yeah.
movie, and it definitely
Yeah.
captures that vibe perfectly.
Yeah, to be honest, the only thing that I took issue with, and this is just a me thing, is that I am so damn old that I'm looking at like what high school, like, I mean, I know that it's also a movie and clearly a lot of it is like built up with the technology and stuff, but it's just so far removed from what school was like when I was in school that I'm watching it and I'm thinking like, what the hell happened? Not even that it's bad, but it's just so different. You know what I mean? Like we didn't
Oh,
have
yeah.
cell phones. We didn't like, I mean, we had internet, but at school, you know, and it wasn't something that you used like all the time. It was like on your
You
free
had the
time.
class or the internet class.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was, oh my goodness, like, wow, it was a bit of like a culture shock. It made me feel even older than I normally do watching these teenagers doing these things. And I'm like, what, when did this happen? You know, has it really been like 16 years since I've been in high school? Like what, pardon me?
We're going to start talking about her family. So she has a bunch of sisters that no one knew about until Mystery Inc. And her parents, George and Elizabeth Blake, were called Barty and Nan Blake in Mystery Inc., which is weird.
Barty
I thought that was weird. Barty and Nan Blake. I don't know if they were supposed to be nicknames or if they just completely changed their names, but it's odd. And then she has her sister Daisy, who's a doctor. Dawn is a model. Dorothy is a race car driver. Delilah is in the Marine Corps. And then in a flashback in Revenge of the Man Crab, they showed a picture and Daphne said it was of her sister's wedding. And her sister and the husband were wearing astronaut suits. So is this, they never gave a name. So is this like a totally different sister that no one knows about?
Maybe an astronaut wedding.
Weird.
A theme wedding, astronauts, yeah.
Yeah, what is that? 7 sisters?
So that would
Total?
be
5, I think.
5. That would be 5.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then her uncle Matt is a cattle rancher. So Cameron, you can relate to him, right?
That's why I love that episode so much.
the southern boy right here.
There you go. Born and raised.
John Maxwell is her uncle and he's a movie director. Olivia Derby is her aunt, but we don't get much information on her. Jennifer is her cousin. I don't even think we know what she looks like. Danica LeBlake is a French famous model. And Shannon Blake is the cousin that we met in the Loch Ness Monster when they showed Blake Castle, which I loved. I thought Blake Castle was the greatest thing ever.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's part of her family. That's a family member.
And then it is actually on the site. I found as a family member. And then Thorny Blake V is Daphne's uncle, and he owns the Erie Point Country Club golf course.
The 5th is very important.
The 5th, yes.
So does that mean her grandpa had that name as well? Because if that's her uncle, then unless it's like a farther away uncle.
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, if he's the 5th, then there were 4 others before him. So yeah, I would assume that her, but we don't ever hear anything about her grandparents.
Right.
So does anybody have like a favorite family member of Daphne's, or just a storyline where they brought them into the show? Anything like that? Cameron, we'll start with you.
So my favorite was Matt Blake, and he was a cattle rancher in Texas for the Scooby-Doo episode, A Bum Steer for Scooby. I liked it because, well, I'm a cattle rancher in Texas, but I also loved how it was so different from all the rest of the family that we've seen of Daphne. You know, when you think of Daphne's family, you think they're, and here goes back to the rich thing, but you know, you kind of think they're going to be in a different world. You don't think one's going to be a cattle rancher in Texas. So to me, that was pretty cool to see. You know, I will say, in like the older, earlier Scooby-Doo, we get to really like see some different family members all across the United States and across the world. And I think that's really cool. Like I remember like in the new Scooby-Doo movies, we saw one of Shaggy's uncles, you know, when he owned a castle. And, you know, I thought that was really neat. And so to see Daphne's uncle own a cattle ranch and kind of like we're taking Scooby-Doo and kind of going into a different like world and, you know, like a different like setting. To me, that was really neat to see. It's kind of going back to what I said. I wish we would see a little bit more of those characters they've introduced in earlier times, kind of brought back. You know what I mean? And they could have definitely brought them back in so many things. I mean, we've had so many Scooby-Doo. I mean, today's National Cowboy Day, and you know, we've always had a lot of Scooby-Doo movies and books and, you know, episodes that have kind of been around the wild, you know, the old West, the wild, wild West. And yeah, so to me, you know, they could have definitely put, you know, Matt Blake back in, you know, and kind of like, oh, hey, Uncle Matt, you know, and she kind of could have, you know, had like a little reunion. I will say it was strange for her to have so many sisters in the Mystery Incorporated, you know, and they have like all these different like occupations and like, you know, like one's a doctor, one's in the army, you know, one, you know, so it was weird to see all that. You know, I kind of wish we could have kind of, like I said, I wish we would have seen introductions, kind of backstories to the characters, but I wish we could have like seen a little bit of a family tree, you know, and I feel like the only kind of really family tree that we actually like get like an actual family tree is actually just for Scooby. If you ask me, because as we go throughout the series and a pup named Scooby-Doo and, you know, the curse, or, you know, 13 ghosts, we actually see, you know, the mom and dad, and we actually get to know the cousins, and, you know, we actually get to know them. But I feel like with like the family members of like Daphne or Freddie or Velma or Shaggy, like we really don't get to know them in a sense. We just kind of see them, we know a little bit about them, and that's it. Well, and then we're cutting it off. And to me, I'm like, why don't we just like list out the family tree for them now? I mean, they've been around 52 years, so let's just go ahead and list like an official family tree for Daphne, Freddie, you know, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby, and let's just like actually get to know those characters a little bit more. You know what I mean? So like I said, Matt's my favorite, but I feel like, you know, I like I said, the sisters were kind of strange to me. You know, but like I said, for me, the earlier ones are more exciting and more fun to me. I think when you try to throw the family tree in now, I think it's kind of a little bit harder. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's like we should have already established this. We should have already talked about the family members. But also, too, there's always like so many different uncles and aunts popping up. I'm thinking to myself, like, how big is your family? You know what I mean? Like, are we just trying to make new characters, or are we just kind of running out of ideas? So that's kind of where I'm at.
I did think it was kind of odd that she has all these sisters in Mystery Inc., but we've never heard about sisters before in any other series before.
Oh, like nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I know it's the writers. It's
I feel like that was a joke
portray.
that they thought was really funny, and that only the writers thought was really funny.
You know, everybody wants to remake an origin story. And I feel like once the origin story has been told, then we either need to build on it or just do something different, but not create a whole new origin story. It drives me crazy that they keep recreating origin stories.
I think there's like 3 or 4 for Scooby-Doo right now, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, hold on. I go back to the Scooby-Doo Goes Hollywood. That's my origin story, if you ask me. So
I hold the unpopular opinion, but I love that movie. Most
I
people
love that
don't like
movie
it.
too. Yeah, iconic, classic, and it's the beginning of the movies.
It is.
Yeah.
I don't think it gets enough love.
Yeah. Wendy, what are your thoughts on Daphne's family members?
Well, Uncle John Maxwell's my favorite. And I think that Never Ape and Ape Man is one of my favorite episodes. And I don't know, I love her interactions with him, as few as they are in the show. I just think he's really a neat character. I had no idea about all the sisters until I looked at the family tree that you shared. I had absolutely no idea that they had done that, even though I did watch that series. But as you know, I really didn't like it that much. And I've kind of tried to just block it out of my mind, not even on purpose. Like, it's just everything else is like, well, there's way more important things to put in your brain that can go. That's not something that we need to hold on to. I don't really, I have to be careful sometimes on the panels when I say something about like the series of Scooby as a whole, and in my brain I am cutting it off at 13 Ghosts. I'm not even considering anything that came after it, and what I'm saying is contradicting what comes after it, so I have to be careful to specify, like, I'm talking classic series only, because while the newer stuff can be fun, I don't really need it. I can leave it. I'm totally fine with just the original stuff. So I kind of had a problem with the idea that she has 5 sisters, though, because, again, speaking of classic Daphne never struck me as a girl that had siblings. And I say that as a girl that didn't have any siblings myself. And I did identify quite a bit with Daphne when I was growing up. And her character in those classic series, to me, does not lend itself to a girl that grew up with 5 other sisters. I can't. My brain is like, no, that just doesn't seem to suit it. To be honest, not to go off on a thing or anything, just a quick side note, I've never thought of any of the gang members as being people that have siblings. I kind of always viewed them all as being only children. Now, again, maybe that's simply because I was an only child and it was just like my default, but I just feel like their level of maturity and how they interact with each other and stuff, it's so benign that I just can't imagine any of them having siblings at all. I just can't. So that kind of threw me off a little bit when I saw that they had tried to throw that in there. And I mean, I guess it probably makes sense for like the Daphne that they had in, Mystery Incorporated and later on, because she was so different in like her style and stuff, the style of her character from the classic ones. But yeah, I don't know. I appreciate when we get to see like random uncles and things like that. But again, I can appreciate that people want origin stories and people that are interested, they watch something and they're like, oh, I wonder how did you grow up and what did you do and what are these things about your life? I don't know what's the matter with me. I have zero interest in that. I'm glad that other people enjoy it and that people are making that, you know what I mean? Like making that available to you and stuff. And that's great. As far as I'm concerned, though, again, like I am just so boring, guys. I'm like the most boring person ever. Just give me the story, do the same thing every week, just, change the visuals a little bit. And I am very happy with that. I just don't need all the extra stuff. I was going to say, I can let my imagination do the rest, but I honestly don't think that I've ever in my life watched Scooby and wondered about like their family or their origin. It's just it's a thought that honestly has never just organically come to my mind. To be honest, it really hasn't. And now that I've like listened to everybody talk, I'm like, wow, maybe something's wrong with you that that you don't care and that you've never thought of that, because it makes perfect sense when you guys talk about it. But I'm just like, I've never wondered. I'm like, this is how you are now. and you can't go backwards. You can only go forwards. Even though in real life, I am very much someone who's like, don't forget about the past, you know, pay attention to that stuff and learn from it so that you don't repeat it in the future, or that you can repeat the good things. You know, there's a lot of good things that history can teach us. It's not all negative. But yeah, I don't know, the family stuff, aside from like Scooby-Dee and Scooby-Dum, I don't really need anybody else as far as like extended family. To me, the gang is their own little family, and I'm satisfied. Let's say that. I'm satisfied with that family. You know, I had a very small family myself. I didn't come from a big family or anything, and that probably contributed to this feeling of like, you know, I'm imagining the characters in a similar situation to myself, where there isn't a ton of other people. So maybe that's why I'm satisfied with it. But I am glad that they do sometimes branch off and talk about the possibilities. You know, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if people enjoy it, then great. You know, that somebody else enjoying something that I don't particularly want to enjoy in no way hinders my ability to enjoy the stuff that I do enjoy. You know what I mean? Like people that get like that, where they're like, oh, well, I can't enjoy what I enjoy if you're enjoying something different. Like, what? No, that's not how that's supposed to work. Everybody can enjoy whatever they want. You know, if I don't want to watch the origin stuff, I just won't watch it. Nobody's, you know, tying me down and being like, no, you're gonna watch this and you're gonna like it. Like, no. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. Block it out, you know? Take it in, get rid of it if you don't really care for it. Whatever. Watch what you want. I don't think there's a problem with that.
Tiger, what are your thoughts on Daphne's family?
Okay, I guess I have a favorite. Well, let me say, until today, I thought I had a favorite, right? So right before the panel, I rewatched the What's New Scooby-Doo episode, Ready to Scare, because as a kid, I may have said this in a previous panel, but the only Scooby-Doo DVDs I had was the What's New Scooby-Doo volume, that Ghost on the Go, and it had Ready to Scare on it. And I loved French stuff. I wanted to go to France. I always knew that. I ended up going there 2 years ago. But so as a kid, I loved that episode, and I've seen it a million times. And I guess just from that, I thought, you know, Danica is my favorite family member of Daphne, right? But then today I'm watching it and I'm like, she's not even in the episode. She's got like 3 lines, you know, she disappears the first scene, and then spoilers, she's the monster at the last scene, like, and that's it, you know. So I guess, oh, the cat is coming in. Yeah, so I guess not my favorite character, but my favorite memory associated with a family member, because definitely she's not a character. I mean, there is no characterization to her. She's a supermodel. Okay, that's about all we know about her, but just the episode around it is definitely my favorite episode about a family member. The music, the vibes, the French atmosphere, the little music that they play, like when they're transitioning scenes, it's all good, you know. It's great French vibes, and then them using a song that's not at all French for the chase scene, I thought was hilarious. Plastic Bertrand, my Scooby-Doo introduced me to him, and he's one of my favorite artists now. It's like, sorry to go off topic, but that, you know, that's something Scooby could do all the time, is introduce you to new stuff you would never even think to look up.
Billie, what are your thoughts on Daphne's family, and do you have a favorite family member?
As far as Daphne's family members, you know, I haven't seen a lot of this because I haven't seen Mystery Inc., of course. I do appreciate that they brought her uncle into the original series. I did like that. I remember liking that. I was thinking, oh, cool, she's got an uncle who's a movie director. You know, that was like an interesting element to throw in. And I liked seeing her parents, like I said before, in A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. But as far as the sisters, you know, to me, it does sound, from what you're all describing without me actually seeing it, it does sound like what Tiger was saying, that to me, it sounds like a joke on the part of the writers. Like, we're going to grab another sister with a name that starts with a D out
Right.
of the closet, and here's, you know, so and so, and she does such and such. So like the diversity in their occupations and
Right. Like, this is the family member with this job. That's it.
yeah. So I think it does sound like just kind of a funny little inside joke that they're pulling on us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
So one of the things that I think is kind of odd, and this has to do more with Daphne and Velma, is that, you know, they're supposed to be all best friends, but they don't necessarily act like best friends. I mean, they act like they're co-workers, but, you know, as best friends, you would think that Daphne and Velma would be closer. They would, you know, they would be talking, they would have their little inside jokes, but they don't. And I've always thought that was kind of odd, because usually when girls get together, you know, they're giddy and they're laughing and they're, you know, being silly, but you don't really see that with Daphne and Velma so much. Does anybody agree, disagree?
Well, that makes me think, just because you're saying Daphne and Vilma, two family members we forgot about, or I guess they're Daphne's mom and dad from that movie. I think they're probably amongst the best, most characterized family members, at least. Like, the dad has got a whole arc through the movie. And the mom,
you mean Daphne and Velma?
Yeah, in the movie Daphne and Vilma.
Yeah.
The mom, like, her faces and her expressions are hilarious throughout the movies. I totally forgot about those family members, but I think they're worth the mention.
Yeah, and that's true. They are. What does anyone remember what their names were? Did they follow the names of the normal characters?
I don't think so.
I don't remember what their names are. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Sorry. Okay, but about Daphne and Vilma as best friends, yeah, that's definitely they're a pair, but then it's like, where did it come from? Like, Daphne and Vilma is a thing. You say it. It's Daphne and Vilma. It goes together like, you know, toast and bread. But yeah, why? Yeah, why are they the pair? You know? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think of them as a pair. I don't think that Daphne and Velma were meant to be like paired off as best friends. Again, I feel like the gang is meant in the classic series to be a single unit.
Right.
Where it's not Daphne and Velma, it's the five of them together. That there isn't necessarily like a reason for two of them to be friends or for these ones to be friends. It's just that they're just like this perfect little unit, and it doesn't matter why they work. All that matters is that they do work, which I do think was like a deliberate message to try and teach kids that, like, who cares what color you are? Who cares, you know, if you come from the same, you know, economic background? Who cares this? All of these things that are very much a part of our lives, but they don't matter in the context of, like, can we be friends? Can we get along? Can we enjoy doing things together? You know, I mean, obviously it's good to have things in common with your friends, you know, like we all love Scooby. Easy thing for us to talk about and be friends over, you know what I mean? And there are definitely things in friendships that are meant to be like lifelong and very deep, where you kind of need to have a little bit more in common than just like one thing that you enjoy, of course. But I don't think we're supposed to read too much into the show, but I do think that the show was very, very much primarily designed to show kids that, like, listen, who cares why they get along? They just do. And it works and it's awesome. And nobody is like pairing up either romantically or just like a friendship thing, because if you had Velma and Daphne being like best friends, the way that we think of best friends in life, it would really change the dynamic of the group, which would then in turn change the dynamic of the show. And in some ways, I would argue that it would almost be as disruptive as introducing a romantic relationship between, say, Fred and Daphne. It would change it so, so much, you know? If you've got a best friend and you're in a group of people, you're never going to want to go off with anybody else. You're always going to want to be
have
paired
that in
together.
there with Shaggy and Scooby. We have the best friend pair.
That's true. Yes, that's very true. And I think that because they are meant to be the primary characters, you know, and I think that's why eventually they didn't have too much of a problem saying, hey, we're actually going to get rid of the gang completely for a little while. Like, whether it worked or not the point, you know, but clearly they felt comfortable enough with Shaggy and Scooby as their own unit within the larger unit, which completely agree. Yeah, they are best friends, and that is why they're typically always together. And, you know, they do have their own dynamic within the overlying dynamic of the group.
Right.
But yeah, I think it would change it too much to do that. You know, we do get a couple of instances that are fun, like in Vampire Bats and Scaredy Cats, and Daphne and Velma, they're sharing a room in the hotel. You know, Daphne's brushing her hair, Velma's doing sit-ups on the floor, you know, and Daphne's like,
the animation.
Yeah, you don't think that there really could be a vampire, do you? You know, and they're having like this little back and forth, and like it is a fun moment of the girls. You know, there are a couple of times throughout the original series where they're staying somewhere and like the boys get their room and the girls get their room, you know. Night of Fright is No Delight, I think, has that separation as well. And it is fun to see them as the girls do something together. But I'm really glad that they didn't push that best friends girls kind of thing, because then you would have like where it just would change the dynamic. And I don't think it was that we were meant originally to pair off the two girls as their own thing. And so I think that's why we don't see a lot of that best friend stuff. Like I just can't picture Velma and Daphne like braiding each other's hair, you know? I can't. But I have a best friend and I can't imagine us doing that either. I can't. You know, that's not the kind of thing that we would do. So some people are very like emotional, kind of clingy, where they want to be like hugging or, you know, like let's walk around with our arms linked and stuff. And some people that's just not their thing. And so even if they are meant to be closer friends than just a part of a group, I think that they're just, they fit the latter, you know, the latter part of that, where I just don't see them as being like the grabby kind of you know, I don't picture either Velma or Daphne like that.
That sounded
you know?
a little bit like Velma.
That is true. It would have changed the dynamic of the gang very much. And yes, it would have added drama, and it probably would have been a mess. So yeah, it's a good thing that they didn't do it. I guess I just think it's odd that they're all supposed to be best friends, but yet it's more of a working relationship than a best friend relationship. And that's with all of them except for Shaggy and Scooby, of course, because they definitely have the best friend relationship and not so much the working relationship.
I think that point you just said is really proven in the live action movie, like the 2002 movie, the first scene when all three of them are so ready to quit. It's like, even when it's just Shaggy and Scooby and then just Vilma left there, she's like, I'm leaving too. Like, what did Shaggy and Scooby ever do to you? Nothing. It's the group dynamic of what happened.
Yeah. So does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss about Daphne?
Have you seen Daphne and Vilma, Billie?
No, I haven't. You know, I had not heard of that until I listened to, until you're talking about it tonight, but then I also watched the panels a couple days ago, the previous panels, and I think you all talked about it then too. I guess I need to look that up. It sounds like
it's on Hulu if you have it.
I had not even heard when it was released. That's crazy. So
it's an interesting piece of I don't want to call it Scooby media, Scooby related media.
Well, I'm a big fan of continuity, and I guess I didn't say that before, Nikki. I probably should have when we were talking about Daphne's family members, because I'm just always looking for continuity. I guess it's because I just like things in order. I like things.
It might make you a little mad because it's apparently it's supposed to be a prequel to the 2002 live action movie, but yeah, it's obviously takes place in a technologically advanced future, so they sort of like break the premise right away.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say that about continuity in relation to her family members is that I would have loved, to the fact that I liked the uncle being there in the original series, the movie director. I would have loved to have seen a later series where he pops up again, follow up continuity. And
right.
So I would have found it really wild to see all of these different sisters with the first name starting with B out one after another. It's like, where did she come from? I'd be thinking, why wasn't she? She wasn't in an original series, why are they bringing her out? So I have just a little nagging thing about lack of continuity.
Right. Yeah, Scooby-Doo loves to break continuity.
Oh yeah.
I was going to say too that it seems like all of the different series over the years and the direct-to-video movies and all of that, nobody is too concerned about following any kind of Scooby Bible, are they? I mean, there's some patterns that are always kept, but there's a lot of deviations from. It seems like it to me, anyways.
They definitely give them a lot of creative freedom to take the characters in whatever direction they seem to want to take them in.
Yeah.
But at least, Be Cool, the animation isn't as bad for Be Cool as it is for Jellystone. So
That's true.
There's a plus.
There was something I said in the beginning that I said I wanted to ask. I can't remember right now. I'm trying to remember.
Daphne's cross eyes.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Do you guys think Daphne is cross-eyed? What do you think,
really
Nikki?
know.
I don't think she is. I mean, I think at times she can look like she is, but I don't know that she was necessarily intentionally drawn that way.
Show us the head, Wendy.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Oh god.
My disembodied Daphne head. That this wig usually, like, I got this and I painted it so I could put the wig on it and display it. So
I just feel like with the angle of her eyes, she's
you
just
do have
cross-eyed.
Yeah, it is very, very, it's very, very close. You know what I mean? They definitely made that design. Like, I would hate to be an animator trying to replicate that again and again and again, because the
Right.
style of it is so close to, like, if you screw it up, like I screwed it up on the one and it just was too lazy, because it would have been a big deal to fix it, because it's just foam, you know what I mean? And to cover black is a big deal. So I was like, whatever, she can be a little bit, it's fine. But yeah, if you had to like do, thousands and thousands of cells, I can't even imagine like the precision necessary to get her eyes so that she doesn't look like she's cross-eyed.
Right. But I feel like just
Yeah.
with the shape of her eyes, like when her
very-
here
yeah.
and here, it's like
Yeah. And because there's no white, the
Right.
white part is like her skin color, which makes it even easier to mess it up. If the pupil's like just a little bit too big, well, it throws off the balance, so.
What do you think, Cam?
I really never, I never really focused on that. I will say though, like in the earlier Scooby-Doo, like Scooby-Doo, Where Are You, Scooby-Doo show, there's always those moments like where they'll zoom out on something and like the gang's all standing there, or like Daphne will speak and it's Velma speak, it's Velma's voice. And I'm like,
Yes.
well, what's going on here? And I know it's early. We can't make fun of it because it's early animation. Like, guys, we gotta think this is back in the 60s and 70s. I just find it funny because you'll be watching it and then like you can like pause it where you want to pause it, and I'll just start laughing so hard because I'm like, oh man, like they meant it for this, but it came out this way. And I'm like, oh, but it's like I said, it goes to early animation. But Nikki I will say, I'm not going to make this longer, but I will say, if there's anything else we wanted to add about Daphne, I just got to say, I love how she's had different styles throughout the whole Scooby franchise. I think my favorite, to be honest with you, is the original, but I do love her 13 Ghost outfit. I just think it is, honestly, it's so stylish. I think it was like way before its time. You know what I mean? Like, I think it was just like, if I see somebody wearing that nowadays, I'm like, oh, that's really trendy. That's really good. You know, it's really cool. And I love how Wendy's really trying to capture the 13 Ghosts, you know what I mean, look of Daphne. And I think you're doing a wonderful job, Wendy.
Thank you.
But it was even cool to see like Daphne even take like a different hairstyle on in the 13 Ghosts. All I'm saying is though, is it's cool to see the gang kind of go in a little bit of different avenues in a way and kind of change. I mean, they're staying true to like their original styles, but they're kind of just tweaking it a little bit. Like, take for example, like What's New Scooby-Doo. I love their styles and What's New Scooby-Doo. It was like the originals, but just kind of a little bit more modern, updated, you know? So I think all I'm trying to say is with Daphne over the years, whatever, like you do like to tweak her fashion or tweak her a little bit, she still makes it look so good. You know what I mean? So that's all I was going to bring up.
Oh yeah. Fashion is a big deal in the franchise. Like the animators or character designers don't get enough appreciation for their fashion sense.
But you know, even Wendy's brought this up. I never get burnt out on their original styles,
right?
In the 70s. Like I don't think it'll ever go out of style. Like when I look at it, I'm like, I want to wear that stuff nowadays. Like I really want to go buy myself an ascot and just have one. But I think I'm gonna break
a blue jumpsuit.
Yeah, I gotta ask Tiger, because you've seen Daphne and Velma. That was the one other thing that rubbed me the wrong way. When Daphne starts styling herself and she basically has like the original kind of the dress and the scarf, and everyone is telling her how
everyone
bad
hates on it. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll admit she looked really, really good in the beginning with like the leather jacket and the high boots and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But she looked just as good. I mean, I think they intentionally messed with the colors to make it a little bit off.
They made it too big.
Yes, yeah, they tweaked it, but that tweaked me, where I was like, excuse me, classic Daphne's outfit is perfection. Okay?
Right, I loved it the first time I saw it. I'm like, oh no, you're all gonna hate on it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the shirt she ends up wearing with the aliens, it's cute, but it's simple. It
was cute, but it just wasn't Daphne.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And it's especially from what she wore in the beginning to there. It's like, all right. And then she just wears that for the rest of the movie. Like,
right.
You had to land on that. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, also too, this is really, really random, but like in the movie Scoob, no one ever talked about her carrying Scooby snacks in her boots. And I'm like, how did anybody miss that? Like, she just pulls out like a perfectly shaped Scooby snack and she goes to throw it. And I'm like, you're walking, you're running, you're tumbling out of the sky. How do you not break that Scooby snack in half? And I'm just sitting there and I pause the movie. I'm like, oh my God, you're gonna be like trapped in my nightmares. I don't know why, but I don't know if y'all realize that, or I don't know.
Billie, do you think she's cross-eyed? What do you think?
Oh, I would never think that she's cross-eyed. Oh, definitely.
Anything else that anybody wants to talk about regarding Daphne?
I have just one more quick thing. Cam, you got yours handy. I did try to do my own little Daphne thing here, but it is also too small to see. But please tell me I am not the only one. For 20 years, I've been looking at this beanie, and it has bothered me that her scarf is yellow and not green.
Oh, he's got the same
day
one right there. Oh,
of my life.
Every
day of my life, this has bothered me. And if anybody knew me in real life, you would know that is not an exaggeration. Like every single day I think about this. Like I want to rip that scarf off.
Oh, you have that too? For the podcast listeners, they're all holding up the same doll.
Oh no, Billie's got the
This figure.
I love it.
my green
I
scarf.
love it.
Her scarf was missing. I bought her for $1 at a toy show. And then I do have this in the box, which I see, Wendy, over your shoulder.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I
Wow.
love it. I
Love
love
them.
those figure toy company for any like Tiger said,
So
for
good.
anybody that's listening to this. I love the figure toy company, how they even I want to talk about this too. Daphne and her winter outfit, I
yes.
loved every bit of it. So to me, seeing it come back, like when they did that Mystery Incorporated episode, where they all went up to the mountain, and it was snowing and they all had the original winter, clothes on. I thought that was really cool. And now there's a company called Figure Toy Company, and they've made Scooby-Doo. They've made all the original almost all the original villains. They've made all the gang in their winter outfits, and I have some of them, but I need to start fully collecting them more. You know what I mean? Those are just so stinking cool. But you know what? I gotta touch on this. Nikki has brought this up so many times. Whenever there's a new product released at Walmart, or whenever there's something released nowadays, they will sometimes they'll butcher their names. Like Nikki, you told me on the fig pins when they released the fig pins. Velma's, Dinkley was misspelled. That would drive me nuts too. But even I will say I'll have to find it, but there's been some merchandise in the past, and okay, you're looking at Daphne and she's got this on her skirt. She's got this little purple line right here. Well, there's some merchandise in the past that I bought where she doesn't have that purple line. Or I think it's a metal tin sign I have. It's for the 50th anniversary, and she does. And I'm like, okay, when you're putting these cartoon characters on there, you need to double check everything, because fans like us, it drives us nuts. Because
Where's the quality control?
Yes, I'm looking at it, and I'm sitting in the shop, and the guy's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Her skirt's messed up."
He calls you crazy. Get out of here.
And I'm like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, he's like, "Just pay the money and leave." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, I guess it just drives me nuts, to see certain little things, because trust me, over the years, products and merchandise, stuff like that, sometimes you'll see something they don't throw in for the gang, and it just drives me up the wall, and I'm like, what? You know what I mean? So I don't know, I guess it's just something somebody just doesn't care about, and just I don't know. I feel like I'm just talking to talk now. Oh my goodness.
All right. So before we finish, I would like you guys to let me know where you can be found on social media. So Wendy, we'll start with you.
You can find me on Twitter. I'm at Wendy Loves Jesus, and also on WordPress, where I do some blogging, and oftentimes I share Scooby related things. It's almost September, and usually in September I will do a 1 year all of the Scooby crap that I bought. So that'll be coming up soon, and that should be fun, because I did get some exciting things this past year. Or you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Wendy Bridge, and it's Bridge with a Y.
Cameron?
You can find me on Facebook at Scooby and Cameron. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at Scooby and Cam.
Billie?
I am on Facebook at /BillieRayBates. I have a blogger account. That's brbtv.blogspot.com. I'm not on Instagram or Twitter or anything like that. I do have brbtv.com and BillieRay.com.
Tiger?
All right. Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Scooby-Doo_DaphneToo. You can find me on Twitch or YouTube at DaphneToo, or on Twitter at Daphne_2. It wasn't available together.
And I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com. Thank you so much for joining us for another Scooby panel.
Thank you for having me back. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for tuning in to another Scooby panel. I'm Nikki Blake from ScoobyAddicts.com. If you like these panels, please subscribe to my channel for more great discussions. A very special thank you to Billie Ray Bates from BRBTV.com, Tiger SINGH from DaphneToo Presents, Cameron Bates from Scooby-Doo and Cameron Too, and artist, blogger, and Scooby collector Wendy BRYDGE. Scooby and Shaggy were voiced by Scott Innes. Check out Scott's page, Scooby's Meddling Kids with Scott Innes, on Facebook. Scooby Panel is available in podcast form on most podcast platforms, or as a web series on YouTube. If you would like to support the Scooby Panel, please go to support.scoobyAddicts.com. Scooby Addicts art by Will Davenport, video editing by Nikki Blake and Mike Burns, music composed and performed by Bovine Nightmares. Please join us next time for our discussion on the food of Scooby-Doo Where Are You?